So, welcome to Satsang this evening. So, Satsang, if you're new to Satsang, if you're new to this teaching, welcome. And if you are new, then you're perhaps in a very good position, because we tend to pick up lots of ideas about what we think awakening is, what Satsang is. So if you're brand new here, don't feel that you are at a disadvantage, perhaps quite the opposite to those of us that have been around a while. The Satsang is really just for the experiential realization of who we really are. So what does that actually mean? It means a deep seeing, a clear seeing of who you really are, because we're not really who we think we are. We imagine ourselves to be these only these body and mind vehicles that we're using. But in truth, there's only one of us here, and that one being is expressing itself through all of these forms. And it's one thing to know that mentally, to be able to think and talk about it. It's another thing to actually live from that realization, to have such a clear, deep seeing that it changes your whole life. How does it change your life? Well, we could spend 3 or 4 hours just talking about that, but perhaps the most important thing that the experiential understanding and realization gives is a deep and profound sense of peace that's effortless and unbroken, and an inability to suffer. It's actually possible for a human being to stop suffering completely. That doesn't mean that all negative emotions disappear. What it does mean is that we lose our ability to resist the things that we don't want and to grab a hold of, try to keep the things that we do want. So for most of us, when some negative emotion arises, we push against it. Somewhere inside, we have this idea that that's how we get rid of these things. And when something arises that's really nice, like peace or joy or even bliss, we might tend to want to keep a hold of that, to keep experiencing it. But it is that exact push-pull mechanism that is the suffering mechanism. Ironically, paradoxically, when we don't push against something that we don't want, it goes. And when we don't try to grab and keep something that we do want, it stays. It's our permanent, effortless companion. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to work on the direct experiential seeing of who we really are, so that the next time your mind says, yes, but you're never going to achieve it, awakening isn't for everyone, or not in this lifetime, or whatever mind is saying, that you will find yourself just a little less able, or a lot less able, to believe those thoughts this time, because you will have had some kind of deeper understanding, maybe a lot deeper, maybe a slight bit. But when it's your truth in here, when you've seen it yourself, and you're not just listening to someone tell you how it is, or tell you about their awakening, you're not reading about it, then it's got a power to it, and it starts to undo your ability to believe your thoughts. That's perhaps the best gift. Can you imagine moving around your life and not being able to believe any thoughts that happen? Doesn't mean thoughts disappear completely. It just means that you don't automatically go to those thoughts. And you have a choice whether to pay attention to them or not. They're just passing through your awareness like clouds in the sky. You can look at them as they go past, or you can just stay focused on your own self. So to illustrate this, to have a deeper seeing, we're going to do a little bit of a self-inquiry exercise, and back by popular demand, since we had that short video on Monday, I've been inundated with requests to do this again. So we're going to do, it's kind of a cross between a meditation and self-inquiry. And all you need to do is just follow along best you can. And it's quite simple to do, but it might shift your perspective of reality. So in doing so, it might bring up some fear. It might not. It might bring up some peace and bliss. Let's be open to that too. So the best way to do this then is to do it with your eyes open, to start off with at first. And later, if you want to close your eyes, you can. But for now, let's stay with our eyes open. You can just follow along as we're going to do this. What we're going to do is we're going to learn to, to recognize that our attention has two modes of being. Most of us, and myself included when I started this, only knew how to pay attention to a thing. And it took me a long time to realize that my attention can just be open. It doesn't have to be focused in, zoomed in, as we're calling it. We're calling this zoomed out, calling this zoomed in. So I'll show you what we mean. So in the room that you're sitting in, I want you to pick an object in the room that you're sitting in that you can see, that you can look at. It could be anything at all. It could be your cat. It could be something inanimate. It could be another being. Doesn't matter. It's absolutely fine. So I just want you to look at that object. As your eyes are looking at the object, we're going to notice that we have a tendency to focus our attention on the object, the physical form of the object. When we do that, we begin to think about the object, and it seems separate to us. So while your eyes are looking, and you don't have to stare, you're just gently gazing. When you're looking at the object, I want you to just become aware at the same time that there's empty space all around that object. So I'm looking at this laptop that I'm using to do this on. My eyes are looking at the webcam. And I'm aware at the same time that there's empty space all around the laptop. And I haven't had to move my eyes to become aware of that, because I'm not becoming aware of the empty space with my eyes. It's invisible. It's intangible, this empty space. So for me, when I discovered this, it was quite profound that I could do something different with my attention. It could stay open. And normally we zoom in, we start to think about, when did I buy this laptop? How long have I had it? Does it need this? What's going on with it? The moment our attention zooms in, as well as our vision, our eyes, what we're seeing with our physical eyes, we begin to suffer. Our body begins to feel tight and tense. But we're so used to that we don't know that we're doing that. So if you started to think about the object, just open your attention again by becoming aware of the empty space around it. Noticing that you can keep your attention. You can notice, you can remember, you can see that there's empty space around the object. And you might notice that when you do that, you begin to interact with the object in a different way. It's there, it's in your experience, but maybe you feel different when you're looking at it. So just bringing your attention to the empty space around the object. We're not ignoring the object. We can look at it as we normally would. You can look at another being. You can look at a thing. And just noticing that your attention doesn't have to follow your eyes or even your mind. So your eyes are looking at something. Your eyes are looking at an object. And your attention is looking at the pure awareness, the empty space, which may just seem like inert, empty space at first. That's totally normal. This is a major leap in our consciousness when we can recognize form, the form of the object, and formlessness at the same time, that it's not one or the other. So now if you want to, you can shift your gaze to something else in the room. You can look at your own body, you can look at your hand, look at something else. Let's do the same thing. Let's zoom out with our attention. The attention has this capacity to focus on nothing at all, nothingness, emptiness, not a thingness. Just paying attention to how your body feels when your attention doesn't follow the senses, when it doesn't automatically zoom in. Does your body feel different? Does it feel more relaxed? And of course, the major place that we can do this is with our thoughts. So our thought pops up, mostly our attention zooms in to it. We begin to think about thoughts. But actually, if you just let the thought arise and open your attention, notice the space around the thought. It may feel different. It may feel like inner space as opposed to outer space, but it's okay. It's still formlessness. Or an emotion arises. So we can literally practice this in our meditation. Our attention stays open and it will habitually go back to zooming in because that's all it's known. You just zoom back out and open. This practice in itself is atomically powerful. When you get this, you'll see that any thought or any emotion at all, any other being, anything at all, any object, whether gross and tangible in the world or subtle and intangible inside, we can meet it from the same open, attentionless or open attention place where our attention is on the nothingness, the emptiness, even when our senses are following something. And if we just get this one thing, it becomes a habit that no matter where our senses go, our attention isn't pulled around behind them and having to slavishly follow wherever the senses go. And perhaps even more importantly, wherever the mind goes, attention just rests in its essential nature. It's just sitting and it's being that space in which the thoughts appear. And just this, when we develop this habit that attention would rather just rest in this open nothingness, not paying attention to anything in particular. Things are coming and going, but attention isn't paying attention to anything. It's called paying attention because it really costs us a lot of energy to zoom in and think about this object. We have to ignore everything else in reality while we do that temporarily. And that costs us a lot. And you might be getting a sense of that as you just keep, if you've zoomed in again while I'm talking, just open back up again. And see whether your body innately tells you that this feels really, really different, really nice. So the more that we practice this, it will become a habit after a while. And after a while, your attention kind of forgets how to zoom in. And we only really need to practice this probably with thoughts. So next time you notice a thought, maybe you're having one right now, I don't really get this as mind. Just notice that thought. You don't need to do anything with it. You just open back up again. Notice the space that the thought is arising and passing by in, the space around the thought. You might have a tendency to want to drift off into a nice deep state or to close your eyes or any of those things because your mind doesn't really want you to get this. Because this is freedom right here, immediate. The moment I'm zoomed in, I'm suffering. When I'm zoomed out, I'm free. And it's just cultivating this habit to pay attention to nothingness, emptiness, silence. We can do it with our hearing, our other sense as well. If you just listen to the words I'm saying right now, I'm saying these words and you're listening and you understand the meaning of these words. And then just shift to just listening. Just listen. Just listening. And when I do this, I can hear my cat moving. I can hear the rain on the window. I can hear these words coming out of my mouth. I can hear a kind of silence in the background. And I'm not paying attention to any of those in particular. I'm just listening. And again, it's this open mode of attention. And at some point you'll zoom in and you'll start listening to a thought, or you'll start listening to my words again and really trying to get something out of them. And that's when the efforting and the struggle and the suffering starts. So you notice your body's tense. That's when you've zoomed in. Your body's telling you every moment this real-time 24/7 feedback. If I feel tight or tense or any kind of negative emotion, I've zoomed into whatever phenomenon I am focused on. What if it was just simply then building this habit to open up attention? What if that became as habitual as the zooming in that we've done before? Because when our attention is open, noticing the space around an object, the more we notice the space, the more we're going to notice what that space really is. Pure awareness, sentience, consciousness before form. Our real essential nature. And as we keep our attention on it more, bring attention back to it. Again, if you zoomed in while I'm talking, just bring your attention back to the emptiness around. Pick any object at all. Any solid object or any intangible seeming object like a thought or an emotion. And open attention back up. And it is actually impossible for your mind to generate thoughts when you are zoomed out. There'll be a little residual thought activity that begins to diminish. And then as you keep your attention zoomed out, you're going to find that your mind becomes really quiet and still. Because your mind is taking its cue from you. If you're paying attention to something, it will think about that something as if it's important. And while all we know what to do is to zoom in, mind has no choice but to keep thinking. So let's just refocus again. Bring your attention to the empty space around an object. Notice it around your body, your own body. And as you get proficient in this, it becomes a habit. Naturally, attention prefers to be open. Everything in nature is trying to go back to its most effortless place. And this is the most effortless place. And it's possible as a human being to have your whole waking state like this with your attention zoomed out. Eventually, when you get used to it, you can drive like this, you can talk like this, you can work like this. And it's just a thought that says that you can't. Of course, practice it in your meditation when you're sitting at home first. In this way, the thoughts and the emotions become actually beneficial tools because you can use them for your practice. Here's a thought, let me zoom out. Here's another thought, okay, let me zoom out again. After a while, you get kind of lazy, too lazy to even pay attention to anything. It costs too much energy. It's like pushing a boulder uphill. The moment you stop, it just It's too much effort. So attention wants to come and rest. Mind wants to fall into silence, but it needs your help. So let's just do this for a few moments. If you want to close your eyes, you can, but see if you can stay with the guided meditation so that you're not drifting off. Because if you drift off into a nice deep state and you don't come back until I say, right, we're bringing the meditation to a finish, that's fine. But you'll have missed the fruit, the real benefit of this. You'll miss how easy it is to be free. Because this will go against everything that your mind says about awakening. It takes a long time. Really, we're either free in this moment or we're stuck in thoughts. It's the only choice we have in any moment, zoomed in or out. That's our free will right there. But that is all we need. So whether you do this with your eyes open or not, if your eyes are open, pick an object in the room. Just lightly rest your gaze on it, just watch it. And just see if you can remember to zoom out. And I'll remind you every now and again. If your eyes are closed, be aware, watchful for thoughts. When a thought pops up, which it will pretty quick, see if you can notice the space around it, cultivating a habit. This is simply a habit. And with a little consistency, we can all make this new habit. Our attention is just getting unhooked from this habit to zoom in. Doesn't mean you can't use your mind. You'll be able to use it even more effectively, actually. And it's not swamped with thoughts about things that you're zoomed into. Just checking whatever object you're looking at, zooming back out, noticing the space around it if you've zoomed in. You might feel that your mind, your body, everything is slowing down. And even if your mind is thinking, it's okay. It's more objects for you to practice with, objects of thoughts. So just checking every now and again, are you zoomed in or out? No blame if you zoomed in. It's okay. Just shift your attention from the object itself, noticing the empty space that's all around it. It won't necessarily come with bliss or joy or love initially. Initially, maybe all you'll notice is that you can't suffer here. And that's enough to start with. It's a safe haven here. Noticing the empty space. Noticing that the coming and goingness of phenomena doesn't really bother you so much or at all when your attention is zoomed out. Thoughts are just thoughts. They're not my thoughts. Don't have to do anything with them. Every time a thought arises, I can use it to help me zoom back out again. So it's this one utterly simple thing. recognizing that my attention is independent of my senses and of my mind. My attention prefers to be open, zoomed out. It feels nicer when I'm paying attention to the empty nothingness, the space, which is really pure consciousness, awareness, silence. Just noticing if you have zoomed in, and just coming back out again, zooming out. Let the mind talk if it's talking, and just use it. The space that the thought appears in, it's already open and free. Whatever arises can be encountered like this. Karmic patterns, emotions, other beings, thoughts. And all the extra energy that we've used to have to block out everything else while we zoom in suddenly becomes available as peace, contentment, quiet. Just checking in, zooming back out. If you've zoomed in, no blame, no big deal. Doesn't matter. If you want to, just getting curious about that empty space. What is it? Is it just empty space? Just checking again, checking in. Where is your attention? And if you've zoomed in, just zooming back out again. Notice the space. There's really nothing to do other than be here. And we're noticing this emptiness. It's been right in front of us the whole time. And yet, overlooked, undervalued, as we all do. bringing attention to it now. Sounds arising, thoughts passing. We don't need to contract our attention around anything at all. Just preferring to experience this moment when attention is zoomed out. Just checking in. Where is your attention? Zooming out if you zoomed in. Notice the space. The space is empty of form. It's completely still, silent. We can rest here. Noticing again if you've zoomed in. Enjoying and just resting our attention on the empty space. Let's just spend a few more moments like this. Zooming out has this beneficial effect on the mind, the body, the nervous system, slowing everything down. Tranquility and peace, calm. So, in a moment, we'll bring this meditation to a close. But just because we're closing this, finishing this, it doesn't mean that we need to automatically let go of this habit. As we move into the questions, the sharings, we can just listen. Even if we're speaking, asking a question, we can just be noticing the space around the words that come out spontaneously. We don't have to automatically zoom back in because our body begins to move or speak or think. Thank you. So I hope you had a taste there of a different way to be with your experience, a different way to be with your attention. I hope you experienced something that might seem a lot less complicated than perhaps we thought about awakening. And that an awakened being really is just, they've just practiced this until it's become a habit, that the attention has kind of forgotten how to zoom in to anything at all, that it's just always open and free, and that we're just aware. We don't have to be aware of, there's just awareness, and whatever's arising inside, there's just silence, and whatever sounds are moving, there's just stillness, and whatever's moving inside. Even a sense of being someone is a subtle phenomenon that we can use for this experiment. I feel like a someone. Okay, let me notice the space around that someone. Everything can be used for this. So I'm going to read a question that's been sent in. If anybody would like to share their experience or ask a question here live tonight, feel free to raise your hand. We'll see how many. I'll read this question. I'll come to you next, Helena. This says, "Hi, Helen. I've been asking repeatedly, can what I really am be shamed, humiliated, attacked, etc.? The sense of contraction really tightens initially and then loosens, but never completely dissolves. Would it then be advisable to contemplate around the contraction itself? E.g., is the formlessness that I am affected by all the contraction? It seems that it is the body that prefers the loosening of the contraction, and not my true self. It seems my true self doesn't even really acknowledge anything. I'd love your insights. Thank you so much. So this is really quite profound, this, isn't it? What you're realizing here, that when some emotion happens or some thoughts, there's a tightness in the body. And maybe what we've just done is given you an insight to the answer to this, that the tightness, the contraction is coming from my attention really focusing on the emotion, treating it as a something, an object. So as you've correctly said here, it's not the real self, the spaciousness, the silence, the stillness. It doesn't really have a preference if the body's tight and tense or if it's relaxed. It's our sense of someone, isn't it? Our sense of a separate being that really cares about this. So I like this question: is the formlessness affected by this contraction? Because that's the root of it here. If who I really am is this empty space of consciousness that we've been noticing, then do I really need this contraction to go? Or can I even use it? Can I have this going on in my body and open my attention around it? And what happens to this contraction when I do that? When I really just let this thing exist because my attention is just open, then the phenomenon has to change anyway. So I like that question, and I think it's going to take you to some wonderful places. The true self, as you said, it really doesn't care, actually. Our humanness, it does care. It would rather feel relaxed, and that's okay. Totally okay. So hope that helps there. So let me know where you get with this question. I'll be intrigued with that one. Okay, we'll go to Helena. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
There we go. Yeah.
This was perfect for something really shifted by doing this meditation. I didn't know you were going to do this, but I just felt like, well, I need to really bring this up. Mm-hmm. Being under almost like this spell of a negative emotion, and it just takes over, and it's almost, there's not even a thought per se, like, or differentiated thoughts. It's more like some energy that just feels this being trapped inside of it, and there's not even the intention to do what we've done right now. But it's just amazing, the shift that just happened to me. I mean, really, like, it's really effective and powerful. And I feel like when I'm under this negative emotion, I feel like I want to escape no matter what. Mm-hmm. And there's no escape. And like, it's like I want some kind of stimulation, something, like I feel this huge restlessness. And then now it's just like it's not, it's just completely gone, almost completely gone. And it's this, peaceful awareness of this possibility. And so it's perfect to share this now. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Even if it is still there to some degree, it doesn't really matter, does it? It's just any phenomenon, whether it's this kind of cloud of negativity, you can just be there, and you're just noticing the space around it that it's appearing in. And it's a
Mhm.
subtle object, that, isn't it? It's not something you can see with your eyes, but still you can just open up around it. And you might get a sense of just how powerful you are, that when you're looking at this negativity, it just increases and spirals.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
just your looking at it is fueling it somehow. So all we can really do then is get attention off of it. Yeah.
It seems like the more that I am more aware, which has been happening lately, there's just like some shifts like that, this other negative force. And you've talked about this a lot, just these karmic patterns become stronger, and there's like, and it's like you want to push it away because it's so powerful too.
Yeah.
So,
You can see now, hopefully, that it doesn't have any power of its own. It's fueled by your focus on it. And of
yeah.
course, we don't do that deliberately. We're trying to do anything else but you really get a sense of that in any moment, I'm either looking at the emptiness or I'm looking at something.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm looking at something with my attention, at least, I'm going to get more somethings endlessly to look at.
Mm-hmm.
More thoughts, more emotions, more karmic stuff. And that's an endless cycle.
Yeah, and it's not true. Like most of it, like it's totally the whole thing is not true. So
But it feels true, of course, when it's
it
happening. So
feels,
it
yeah,
feels like this big,
yeah,
dense, dark cloud of stuff.
yeah,
And for me, it was such a relief just to figure out how to get my attention off of it,
mm-hmm.
because it seems to fill up your whole experience, doesn't it, when it's there? And what do I do with this now? Anything I try to do with it affirms its reality,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets bigger. So in the end, all I can do really is bring attention into this open, this attentionless, where I'm not paying attention to it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like funneling energy to it from the infinite self, and there's a lot of energy in the infinite self.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you open your attention up, you don't need it to go then, because you're not experiencing it the same way, and it can finally then kind of lift and dissipate.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Perfect timing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Caleb?
Yes. Hello, Helen. How are you?
Hi. I'm good, thank you. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to see you. I can just feel this overwhelming energy just flooding my hollow being. It's almost like I wanted to ask you. There's no words to describe the connection to self, I know. But as you've transcended object-subject duality, do you now experience everything as just you happening inside of you? As in, like, this is just you talking to you. This is just me talking to me.
Yeah. How it's experienced is like, I'm not thinking right now, you are me. There's just an absence of any conceptualization, because it's seen so clearly that you are me. Why would I need to think about you? And even to think about you puts this little artificial distance between us that
Right.
I can't really be bothered with anymore. So there's just this, if we're just here, two bodies in this space, then there's an intimacy there. There's a freshness and that just becomes the habit. It's just nicer to experience like that.
Right. And how to maybe you have a tip on navigating the world when everybody seems to be operating from such a separate self. It's like everyone's just running from thought form to thought form, not even aware of their own existence, right? So this is such a refreshing connection.
And really beautifully, when you're just here authentically like this, you begin to have an effect, a gentle influence on those beings that are caught. Even if it's only temporary, even if it's only while they're with you, they just get to slow down just for a little while. and just get a taste of something. And it's not anything you're doing. It's just, there's no frantic thought activity going on in your mind. And everyone can sense that because we're all one being, even if they're not even heard of awakening, they don't know what that is. They just know you're a pretty chilled out person to be around, and they feel quite good when they're with you. Something like that. It's so beautiful. It's the gift you give without even meaning to, in a way.
Right. Well, thank you. I can't believe we've made it this far, shedding the layers of duality and, oh God, the indescribable journey inwards. So thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
and
Thank you.
I am here. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that sounds like a good place to leave it for today. And just want to thank you for your sharings and for the question that's been sent in. And I hope you had a taste of something, a different way of perhaps of approaching what's actually real. That there is this formless sentience that is everywhere all at once. We're calling it empty space, but it's really so much more than that. Pure intelligence before any form. It is the intelligence inside every form. Mind and body don't have their own intelligence, really. They take their cue from you. So thank you for sharing this moment with me. It's been beautiful. Thank you. Namaste.